There is a silence that doesn't come from the world outside. It hums beneath your laughter, lurks in the moments after the screen goes dark, waits patiently behind the applause of others. You've felt it, that dull ache, strangely familiar yet impossible to name. A void not loud but persistent. It is not despair, it is worse, a hollow neutrality, a slow erosion of meaning. And Nietzsche warned you, not in headlines, not in slogans, but in the fire of his words, written for the one who dares to feel deeply in an age of shallow abundance. His voice reaches across centuries, not to terrify you, but to awaken you. Because that emptiness you're feeling isn't a glitch, it's a signal, a truth buried beneath the distractions. You are not broken, you are standing on the edge of a great transformation. But first, you must walk through the abyss, the echo of a silent soul. You wake up, and the world is already screaming. Notifications, responsibilities, lights, noise, but deep inside you, something remains untouched. It does not yell, it doesn't beg, it only echoes. And this echo is the voice of your soul, long muted by modern comforts. It doesn't speak in words, but in absence. In the subtle ache you feel when no one's watching, in the restlessness after achievement, in the hollowness that follows pleasure. Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But what if you don't know your why anymore? What if your soul has become a stranger? That's the first whisper of the abyss. A silence so deep it makes the noise around you unbearable. When comfort conceals emptiness, you've been told you're lucky. You have a bed, a phone, a job, maybe even love. But when the lights go off, the emptiness remains. Why? Because comfort can become a prison, and prisons are most dangerous when disguised as paradise. You scroll, you consume, you smile, and yet the hunger persists. A hunger not of the stomach but of the spirit. Nietzsche didn't despise pleasure. He despised the kind that dulled the will, that turned the lion into a house cat. The void you feel isn't because your life is hard. It's because it's too easy, too numb, too detached from something real, something sacred. That's what the modern world forgets. The soul is not nourished by convenience. It grows in fire. The birth of nihilism in daily life. You didn't choose to be a nihilist. It crept in slowly, like fog. You stopped believing in gods, but nothing replaced them. You stopped trusting traditions, but didn't craft your own rituals. You laughed at old values, yet made none for yourself. So now here you are, floating, anchored to nothing, a ship on a sea of surfaces. This is what Nietzsche feared most, not the collapse of belief, but the failure to build anew. Not the death of meaning, but the apathy that follows. And here's the truth, nihilism isn't some philosophical debate. It's the quiet despair in the checkout line. It's the meaninglessness behind your Monday. It's the cold realization that most of your choices are reactions, not creations. To escape it, you must do more than survive. You must create. You must become, looking into the abyss and seeing yourself. Nietzsche warned, if you gaze long into an abyss, the abyss also gazes into you. Most misunderstand this. They think the abyss is evil, that it swallows. But Nietzsche knew better. The abyss is not your enemy, it is your reflection. It shows you everything you've buried, your longing, your rage, your wildness, your forgotten dreams. It reflects not the worst in you, but the most honest. And if you dare to look long enough, you don't fall in. You wake up, because the abyss is not emptiness. It is potential. It is the blank canvas before the first stroke, the silence before the first scream of your true self. You don't defeat the void by running. You face it, you listen to its whisper, and you become the one who no longer fears silence, because silence is where your soul begins to speak again. The seduction of distractions. The world offers you everything except yourself. There is always another video, another feed, another stream of curated illusions, and you take the bait, not because you are weak, but because you are starving. Starving for something real, something raw, something that reminds you you're alive. Distractions don't ask for your soul, they ask for your time. And slowly, piece by piece, that's exactly what they steal. Not with violence, but with sugar, with dopamine, with endless scrolling that leaves your fingers busy and your spirit untouched. Nietzsche saw it coming, a civilization that fills every silence, that avoids every pause, because in those pauses, the truth emerges, the pain, the longing. The question, who am I beneath all this noise? And that question terrifies a world addicted to forgetting. How modern pleasures numb the will. Pleasure used to be sacred, a reward for struggle, a sign of triumph, a brief touch of the divine. Now, it is cheap, predictable, automated. You can summon it with a button, a swipe, a sip, but you know this already. The more you indulge, the less it satisfies. The more you escape, the less you feel, and that's the danger. Pleasure isn't evil, but when it becomes routine, when it is no longer earned but expected, it becomes poison. It dulls your hunger, it sedates your will. Nietzsche wrote, "Not for the satisfied, but for the burning, for those whose veins pulse with unrest." He knew that the will to power, your inner force, your creative storm, needs friction, struggle, resistance. When life becomes too smooth, you stop climbing, and when you stop climbing, you forget that mountains even exist. The myth of meaning in the marketplace. You've been told meaning can be bought, that your value depends on your followers, your income, your productivity. That fulfillment is just one course, one supplement, one subscription away. But deep down, you know it's a lie, because the emptiness always returns. It waits just beyond the checkout screen. Nietzsche watched the world shift from gods to gold. He knew that when we lose the sacred, we try to replace it with success. But success without soul is just vanity in disguise. The void you feel isn't because you're failing, it's because you're playing a game that was never yours to begin with. A game built to keep you consuming, comparing, complying. To escape it, you must stop asking what the world wants from you and start asking what your soul demands of you. Idols in the shape of progress. They call it progress, faster tech, smarter systems, more connection. But do you feel more alive? We have built temples to efficiency, sacrificed time on the altar of speed, and worshipped the god of relevance. Yet behind the glow of our screens, many of us are shrinking, because not all movement is evolution, not all growth is upward. Nietzsche's critique wasn't just of the past, it was of the blind forward rush. A future that forgets its soul becomes a machine, and humans trapped in machines lose their poetry. You were not made to be efficient. You were made to become, to suffer nobly, to create wildly, to live with the fire of 1,000 contradictions. The world may offer you paths paved in metrics and optimization, but your soul, it longs for wilderness, reclaiming desire from the void. Desire is not your enemy, it is your compass. But somewhere along the way, they made you ashamed of it. They told you to be humble, to shrink, to silence your hunger. And so, you began to fear your own fire. Nietzsche called this the great sickness of modernity, the taming of the soul, the slow suffocation of our deepest drives under the weight of politeness, approval, and routine. But listen closely. Your desire is still there, beneath the numbness, beneath the shame. It waits like a lion in a locked cage, and every time you feel restless, it's because that lion is still alive. This is not a call to hedonism. This is a call to authentic fire, to reclaim the raw, sacred energy of wanting, not what others told you to want, but what your bones remember before the world civilized you. Creating meaning, like a godless artist. The old gods are dead, but the hunger for meaning remains. So what now? Nietzsche's answer was terrifying and liberating. You must become the artist of your own values, the sculptor of your own meaning. There is no blueprint, no divine script, only clay and your trembling hands. This is not an escape from the void. It is how you fill it, with creation, with rebellion, with art, with words, with movements that scream, "I was here." To create meaning is to reject victimhood, to stop waiting for permission, to stop asking, "What should I do?" and instead ask, "What do I dare to make real?" Yes, it's terrifying, because if you fail, there is no one else to blame. But if you succeed, even for a moment, you become godlike, not omnipotent, but sovereign. The fire beneath your apathy. You tell yourself you're tired, that nothing matters, that you don't care. But apathy is not the absence of feeling. It is feeling denied. Underneath your indifference, there is fire, but you've poured so much water on it, so many shoulds, so much guilt, so much fear of being too much, that it smolders in silence. Nietzsche knew that repression is a slow death, that a man who cannot roar will decay from within. You were not made to live in grayscale. You were made for intensity, for conviction, for wild, unreasonable passion. The fire hasn't left you, it's waiting, and it will return the moment you stop apologizing for your flame. Power, not over others, but over yourself. The will to power is not domination, not conquest. It is not about owning others. It is about owning yourself. It is the quiet, relentless force that says, I will rise, even when no one sees me. It is waking up and choosing to be real, even when masks are easier. It is holding your own leash, refusing to be dragged by fear, approval, or past wounds. To embrace the will to power is to stop outsourcing your worth. It's to say, I am the author of my life, and even my pain belongs to me. This is resurrection, not from death, but from numbness, from smallness, from the beige prison of compliance. And you are already rising. Every time you choose truth over comfort, every time you burn your scripts and write your own, every time you feel the void and still choose to create. This is what Nietzsche meant. This is what your soul remembers. Why the herd can't save you. You were born into a world of tribes, families, schools, cultures, ideologies. They gave you names, rules, stories, and at first it felt safe. You belonged, but now you feel alien, even in a crowd, especially in a crowd. Because when you start to awaken, when your soul begins to stir, something shifts. The herd that once comforted you now feels like chains. Their smiles seem forced, their fears contagious, their values hollow. Nietzsche warned of this, the danger of dissolving into the collective, of letting the crowd think for you, feel for you, dream for you. The herd cannot save you because it doesn't know you. It only wants you to be like them, predictable, manageable, forgettable. But you were never meant to blend. You were meant to blaze. Solitude as rebirth, not isolation. They told you solitude is dangerous, that you'll go mad, that you need others to survive. But they never taught you the difference between isolation and aloneness. Isolation is fear. Aloneness is power. When you sit with yourself, truly without distraction, something ancient awakens. You meet the parts of you that have been silenced by noise, the wounded child, the hidden artist, the wild animal, the unborn god. Nietzsche retreated to the mountains not to escape humanity, but to find his truth above its noise. Solitude, for him, was not punishment, it was initiation. And for you, it can be the same, not a withdrawal, but a return to the deep well of your own knowing, learning to dance in inner darkness. The darkness you carry is not a mistake. It is material, fuel, ink for your creation. Most people run from their shadows. They medicate them, distract them, moralize them. But Nietzsche understood, to become whole, you must embrace them. Your anger, your sorrow, your fear, they are not enemies, they are invitations. Each one holds a piece of your power. And when you stop running, you begin to dance. Not a graceful dance, not at first, but a raw, trembling waltz with all you are. The monster, the lover, the cynic, the dreamer. In this dance, you reclaim your depth. You stop being a cardboard version of yourself. You become textured, real, alive. Darkness is not the end. It is the beginning of vision, the quiet strength of the one who endures. There is a strength no one sees. It doesn't roar, it doesn't shine. It simply endures. You know this strength. You've lived it. It's the part of you that kept going when it all fell apart, that got out of bed when everything screamed, why bother? That stayed awake through nights when the void whispered your name. Nietzsche honored this strength, the one that doesn't demand attention, but builds itself quietly, stone by stone. The strength of the one who has suffered consciously and chosen not bitterness, but creation. You don't need applause. You don't need approval. You need a mirror and the courage to see who you've become through the fire. Because here's the truth, you're not empty. You're sacred. And your loneliness? It's not a punishment, it's preparation. When you stop needing the world, there comes a moment when the thirst fades, not because you've found what you were looking for, but because you realize you no longer need it. The applause, the validation, the constant reassurance, all of it, once vital, now feels like smoke, meaningless in the face of the silence you've grown to trust. This is the beginning of freedom. Nietzsche did not ask you to reject the world, but to stop needing it, to stop begging it to tell you who you are. Because once you stop asking for permission, you begin to act, not react. You become the source, not the echo. And in that shift, you're no longer at the mercy of the void. You become its master. How to live without a net. It's terrifying, isn't it? To live without guarantees, without a script, without the old gods and their rules. But this is where the overman is born, not in safety, but in the free fall. You've spent years building nets, identities, routines, beliefs, but now they feel like cages. And deep down, you know, the only way forward is to leap, to dare, to risk failure, to speak truths that cost you everything, to act as if your life is the greatest artwork you will ever create. This is not recklessness. This is sacred danger, the kind that makes your pulse return, the kind that reminds you you were never meant to crawl. You were made to soar or crash, but never to stagnate, walking as your own compass. In a world that demands direction, Nietzsche asks you to become your own compass, not north, not south, but inward, deeper, truer. What do you desire, not what you're told to desire? What do you value, not what earns praise, but what stirs your blood? There will be no map, no applause, often no company, but there will be clarity, integrity, alignment. You become not a follower of paths, but a path maker, a living contradiction. Fierce and kind, broken and divine, a beast who prays, a prophet who bleeds. This is the Nietzschean journey, not to transcend humanity, but to redefine it from the inside out. The void was never the enemy. You were meant to fill it. You feared the void, and for good reason. It swallowed your illusions, stripped your comfort, shattered your scripts. But now you see clearly, the void was never your enemy. It was your canvas. It was waiting for your hand, your word, your scream, your truth. Because the universe is not asking you to understand it, it's asking you to engage it, to step into the silence and make sound, to stand in the nothing and create everything. Nietzsche called this amor fati, the love of your fate, not as resignation, but as affirmation. To say yes to life, to suffering, to absurdity, to joy, to the whole damn thing. And you are ready. The journey inward begins now. If you felt the truth in these words, don't just feel it, follow it. Let this not be another video that fades. Let it be the threshold. Step beyond the comfort of knowing and into the wildness of becoming. Read, reflect, write, wander, build, burn, be reborn. Nietzsche's warning was not a curse, it was a key. And you're holding it now. Open the door. Your soul is waiting.